Alright, y'all. How's it going? Alright, so I'm trying to rush to get this video out before Pistons Knicks Game 2 starts. So we're doing this one a funky diabetic style, so I hope he doesn't mind if I just kind of rip his thing for a moment because now that we're officially one game into each first round series, I think now is a really good time to talk about things, and I really wanted to put out a play-in video but that didn't really end up happening. We might, over the course of this video, touch on some of the play-in related stuff and recap a little bit of that, but mainly we're focusing on these first round series going forward, and I'm going to try not to make too many predictions in this video and just kind of like focus on the details, what you need to know, just things to keep in mind going forward. That being said, there might be some predictions as well, but how we're going to do things is we're just going to start off going each game that's happened so far, recapping it, going over the stuff that's happening now. And yeah, by the time I get this out, Pistons Knicks is probably actively going on. Um, but if it's halftime, go ahead and give this a watch because there's some things I really want to talk about. And starting with, I did really want to start with Pacers Bucks, which is one of the ones I have the most to talk about, and that mostly is because I'm basically a Bucks fan. They're my team in the East, and that is because I'm a Pelicans fan, and you know the Drew Holiday connection and all that. But it feels like a lot more at this point. But that being said, yeah, I've watched enough of the Bucks that I'm really not comfortable with where things are at right now. So I'm gonna talk for a little while, but really, I don't think there's that much to really consider with this series. Honestly, things seem to be playing out how I expected, which is unfortunate. Like, I really don't think the Bucks have much of a glimmer of a hope, really. And I know it seems crazy to say it when it's just game one, and a lot of people don't think the Pacers are that hot. I think people need to give the Pacers a bit more credit. Look, I mean, they made the Eastern Conference Finals last season, and I know favorable circumstances. The East was injured as hell, but you've got to give the Pacers a bit more credit than I think most people are. And they beat the Bucks in the first round last year, so they can absolutely beat the Bucks. We've seen this happen, and the Bucks really—it's crazy. You know, you'd think with Giannis and Brook Lopez on the team that they could defend Pascal Siakam a bit better, but we did not see that happen in Game One. Pascal was pretty much getting whatever he wanted. And yeah, I don't know. This Pacers team still has a lot going for them. Certainly more than the Bucks, where it's like Giannis's face is on the screen right now for a good reason. I mean, he's like, honestly, I don't want to sound too dismissive of the Pacers when I say Giannis is the only like relevant character to look at in this series. Because honestly, if the Bucks are going to win, it needs to be like just something insane from Giannis. I'm serious, and it sucks to say that because Giannis should not have to be doing this at this point, and I really hope we get some more out of some of these guys on the Bucks. But like Kyle Kuzma, man, second coming of Tony Snell. Which, hey, I gotta say, love me some Tony Snell for like that one like third of a season that we had him after the trade deadline, 2022. Tony Snellikin was unironically pretty great. I think he shot like 47% from three or something during that stretch. But yeah, following in his footsteps, we have Kyle Kuzma with a quintuple zero and yeah, minus 24, which I can't believe I kind of talked myself into kind of liking the Kuzma trade when it happened. And like, yeah, I wasn't expecting very much out of Chris Middleton at this point. It was just kind of an unfortunate circumstance where it's like you kind of had to take a chance on a guy like Kuzma. I think if you were going to get anything of value out of Chris Middleton at this point in his career, but no, very unfortunate because if this continues, unless Kuzma has like some noteworthy redemption game, they're going to have a hard time flipping him for anything else too. Like things just look bleak in general for the Bucks, and I know Dame could come back. Dame potentially could come back, but like I'm just kind of getting the vibes that it's not going to be like a game 4, game 5 kind of thing. And it just reminds me an awful lot of and yes, the Pelicans did make the playoffs last season. I know it seems crazy to say because that seems like so long ago. And yeah, I do know that the Pelicans got absolutely swept and decimated by the OKC Thunder, but we did make the playoffs. But the whole situation there was, I'm not going to lie, I'm worried it feels very similar to what's going on in Milwaukee, right? Where it's like you have that guy out and the whole team just does not seem to have the fortitude to withstand that absence. Because it was the exact same thing they were saying about Zion when he went out. How, hey, he could come back. He could come back later on, and it's like, okay, it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter because this series is not going to be that long. And like, I'm honestly worried that like Milwaukee is going to need a Herculean effort from Giannis to win any given game in this series. And right now they've just got to do everything in their power to try and extend this series just a bit. And that's going to require a whole lot more from Gary Trent Jr., who, yeah, I mean, didn't have a great game, didn't have an awful game either, but like everybody's going to need to bring more to the table, and I just don't know how much Milwaukee can really get that done at this point. Sometimes Taurean Prince is weirdly good. But I don't know about this starting lineup. Like Ryan Rollins is like, and he only played 18 minutes too. I don't know what Doc Rivers was thinking starting Ryan Rollins. I don't really know what the point of that was, but yeah, no. One reoccurring theme that we're going to cover in this video is just like how hard it is when you have a deficit of guard play, because a lot of the teams that are struggling right now, they just do not have the guards that they need, either due to injury or just that the roster construction. So yeah, I mean, AJ Green with 15 points is pretty nice. AJ Green's kind of become one of those sort of like an Austin Reeves, and I'm not just comparing them because they're white, but like one of those guys who just kind of comes out of nowhere to be a consistently pretty good, backup scorer for the team. So AJ Green getting 15 points, that's nice. They're just going to need a whole lot of that, and I don't know how much at this point Pat Connaughton or Bobby Portis can contribute. Those are guys who I had so much affection for after the 2021 title run, and it's been kind of tough because I feel like I've been overrating them ever since, and like I want them to show that they actually can contribute on that level again, but I just don't know. Bobby Portis has had a not great year in many respects, but I don't know. Maybe you take him over Kuzma at this point. And I mean, I expect Kuzma will probably have at least one decent game in the series, but it's just depressing that we're even talking about it in those terms. It's a totally different situation if Dame is there. But honestly, I don't know. I've talked about the Bucks deficiencies enough to just shout out Indiana for a little bit. I mean, Rick Carlisle is a really capable coach, and I think it's really cool that he's got to see and usher through this thing the whole way through. Like ever since they brought in Tyrese Halliburton, and he really got to build up this team. Rick Carlisle's been with all these guys, so you're really seeing that culture there. And I think it happens sometimes where like when a coach gets fired from his iconic position, like because of course Rick Carlisle was with the Mavericks for so long, and then he goes to a new place, people just kind of sort of forget about them, as particularly like when they were in that sort of rebuilding situation, which was very brief. Honestly, such an impressive turnaround for Indiana these past few years. But I'm just looking at this roster. It's just such a nice balanced roster. It's just not anything that the Bucks have. Like the starting five is really nice. Nembhard and Nesmith as your fourth and fifth guys in that lineup is like those guys contribute in many different ways. And then Obi Toppin just bringing that energy off the bench. T.J. McConnell being such a phenomenal backup point guard. It's like, God, I would love for the Bucks to have any of those guys in any way. I don't have much faith that they can pull this out. Indiana's just such a much more well-rounded team, and I've talked about this for nearly 12 minutes, which I expected I would. But yeah, not much else to say, honestly. Indiana could go further than people expect. I expect them to win this series, and could they make the Eastern Conference Finals again? I think you should consider it. I think you should consider the possibility. Now, that being said, let's move on now. And oh, I did not quite make the image big enough, but we got our boy Kawhi here, which another. I think we've been talking about guys that you should not write off. I feel bad. I feel like I wrote off Kawhi Leonard a little too much. Like this last game here, and I know he's kind of been good for them all year long, but this last game here with the Nuggets was really the wake up call for me personally, where I'm like, okay, Kawhi can still be kind of like old Kawhi. Like he's not so far removed from like I don't know if he's quite at like Raptors level yet, but he's not so far removed from like let's say 2020 Kawhi, like when he first got to LA. And that's nice. It makes you feel like you haven't lost as much as you actually have these past 2 years. And yeah, I don't know. I think LA got pretty lucky with how things shaked out. Like I think most of us were pretty nervous for the Clippers going through this offseason where just losing Paul George and nothing else really happening. And, they got a few good signings, including some that performed really well in the last game, like Derrick Jones Jr. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Like, the Clippers were just kind of lucky enough that they had everyone on their team kind of turn into who they needed them to be. And everybody's just kind of like playing at the level that you would hope and expect at the right time. And the Clippers have had such poor luck with the timing of everything in general these past few seasons. Honestly, I'm really happy for them. I'm not exactly the Clippers fan, but as like the ugly stepchild within Los Angeles, I've always had a bit of an affinity for them. I'd like to see them finally like make another Western Conference Finals possibly, and it sucks that they have to go through the Nuggets because the Nuggets are still so damn good. And yeah, I guess to talk about Denver for a little bit, we'll go back to the Clippers, but yeah, basically, I guess to summarize my main point about the Clippers so far is having Kawhi back and healthy and playing on both ends makes a massive difference for this team, and Harden deserves some of his flowers as well. But Denver, though, no, this is going to be an awesome series, and I'm so excited to watch Game 2 later tonight. And, like, it might not go 7 games. Like the way this series shakes out, Denver could pull off a sweep and it would be like a phenomenally close series. Like I expect every game to be like game 1 where they're just constantly trading blows cuz I just don't see the avenue for either of these teams to really pull away from one another. I think they have adequate answers for one another that you're going to have a firefight any given night. And I really hope so. I really hope that holds true. I hope Kawhi Leonard stays healthy. And that being said, it was also super duper nice to see Denver kind of still looking like the old Denver. Like I gotta say, and I mean this with absolutely no disrespect to Mike Malone, but I really did not notice his absence in that last game. And I don't know if David Adelman is going to be the long-term answer there at head coach, but whether you want to give more credit to David Adelman or Jokic just kind of steadying the ship, how the Nuggets played that game just felt very classic Mike Malone, and the way they just kind of stayed the course the whole way through and did all the important stuff, made all the clutch baskets they needed to pull through the victory in the end. Great overtime game, and I don't know. A lot of times in overtime, the Nuggets just have this way of just kind of taking control and just deciding, okay, it ends here. Like as soon as they know, okay, 5 minutes, and we're like on we even playing field for 5 minutes. Like it's like I think that's just what it is. Is that the Denver Nuggets could probably beat any basketball team if every basketball game was just 5 minutes long. Like if they know they need to lock in for that set amount of time, they will do it. And yeah, I mean it's good to see Jamal Murray looks like he's you know he, it was very disappointing to see how he performed in the playoffs last season, and I'm very happy that he seems to be more in line with 2023 than last year so far, I think. And we'll see. It's still early. I expect he might have a few inconsistent games, but yeah. Also, really loved seeing Westbrook contribute on multiple levels. Westbrook is just a very fun player when he does that, and you know, it sucked that he became in on the Lakers a player that people don't like to watch because Westbrook, even in a reduced role, has proven now that he can still be a phenomenal player to watch in kind of like that scrappy, everyman kind of a Draymond Green or Josh Hart kind of way. And that energy that he brings Yeah, no, it's one thing that like really helps the whole like Nuggets culture flow, and that is important because like moving on from Mike Malone, culture guys will be very important to this team, and that's not to say that they, okay, you would love to have a little bit more of a complete roster, but we're not talking about the roster right now. It's the playoffs. It is what it is now. It's just what can you get out of these guys? And was pretty concerning that Michael Porter Jr. had such a bad game. But once again, I don't know. It's like Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray. These guys aren't always so consistent, but usually you get at least one of them. You don't often get both of them at peak performance at the same time, but usually you can hope for at least one of them. So I wouldn't be surprised if at one point, if for at least a few games in this series, like Michael Porter Jr. has like a 30-point game, 25-point game, and then like Jamal Murray just has like an 11-point game. These things happen, and that's just also like how Denver plays, where it's just wherever Jokic can feed it, you know, every now and then Jamal Murray locks in and just decides, okay, I'm getting my buckets no matter what. But that's a bit less common of an occurrence these days. He can still be good without doing that. Um, but no, I mean, the Clippers honestly have a pretty damn complete team as well. I mean, and it's great to see Harden kind of really unleashed as a point guard, and not to like take Harden's side too much on the whole like Philadelphia debacle, but yeah, I mean, when he is running the whole system, Harden is still quite excellent, and that's like just kind of the great thing about this Clippers team is they are still excellent in many different ways, and Zubac is a big part of that. I want to give a massive shout out to Zubac because he has been so damn consistent for them season after season, and seeing him finally get to kind of reap the rewards of some media praise through increased offensive output is great. And that's not to say that that's like and that's not to say they're just like feeding him for the sake of stats. He's actually contributing meaningful offense. And it's great to see him do it because like once again, the guy's just been like a workhorse for the Clippers and always been very consistent, done a lot of just good basketball moves. You always felt very steady and certain, always having him as a center because the Clippers have dealt with so many injuries, but he's always been there as a starting center, and he's always been good enough that you've never really had to worry about finding someone else, and that's been huge for them over the years. And now Zubac, I would love for him to win Most Improved Player. I don't think he's going to get it. It'll probably go to Cade, but I would think it would be pretty cool if someone like Zubac won Most Improved Player. And Norm Powell only having 12 points, he could easily go off for like 24 in any given game. Nick Batum, like I don't know, there's so many guys on this Clippers team that you would probably expect to have been over the hill by now, but they're just not. Um, Nick Batum had a shot in the last game that like my dad just when he saw it, he just went, "Wow!" Like there's not many guys that elicit that reaction from my dad, but Nick Batum is one of them apparently. So yeah, I don't know. Just I'm very excited for this game later tonight. We need to move on. I've been talking plenty long enough again about these first two games. So yeah, you probably are wondering why Tobias Harris's face is here, and as I speak, the Knicks and Pistons game 2 is actively starting. But I guess Tobias Harris is kind of an X factor. I put him here because I thought it would be funny. And God, isn't this a funny picture? Okay, I did not poorly crop this. This picture's just off center for no damn reason. I don't know why. And yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the first time he was on the Pistons. Yeah, I guess he's kind of a good culture guy for them. I don't know. It's like a guy didn't necessarily need to have the most successful tenure with a team for his comeback to the team to have some kind of positive impact, I think. You kind of saw that with the Pelicans and Elfrid Payton. Not that we were winning or anything, but yeah, I don't know. Tobias Harris was pretty damn good in the first game, and I mean the Pistons in general were until the Knicks just kind of decided, okay, we're taking over. Which, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I don't know if the Pistons really have enough to like overcome this Knicks team that could easily make the at least the Eastern Conference Finals. And I want to praise the success story of the Pistons as much as anyone else, but that being said, it's just a little bit different. Like I feel like they're just a little bit outmatched on every level, And even the things that the Pistons do so well, like that really tough hustle fighting mentality, like the Knicks just also have that in spades. And Tom Thibodeau, yeah, I mean, like Tom Thibodeau, like could have won Coach of the Year this year if it weren't that there were a couple other really well qualified candidates. I mean, I guess JB Bickerstaff. If I'm gonna say Coach of the Year, I also got to bring up him, who in any other year, it's so unfortunate. He totally deserves it for turning the Pistons around like this, but I think it's got to go to Kenny Atkinson in Cleveland. So going into the fourth quarter of Game One, the Pistons had, I believe, an 8-point lead, and they ended up losing by like 10. So, yeah, I mean, the Knicks are just very, very clutch, and a lot of that is Tom Thibodeau, who is still a great coach, and so is JB Bickerstaff. I think they've both done a great job of fostering the culture of both these teams, and like I said, they're going to match each other in terms of fight. And it is unfortunate for the Pistons because I don't know how much of an advantage they'll have there. I mean, like, a guy like Isaiah Stewart is intimidating as hell, but they've got plenty of dogs over in New York as well. I mean, Josh Hart is going to find the way to get an offensive rebound. And shout out to Josh Hart. I mean, that guy has been steadily one of the hardest workers in the league. Like, ever since he was in the Pelicans, I don't really know what he was like on the Lakers. I wasn't really watching that, but, you know, even in Portland, he wasn't in Portland for long, but I remember this game I saw. I was there in the arena for a game that happened not long after he got traded. It was the very end of the 2022 season, and he had just been traded there. And it was the end of the year, and Dame was hurt, and they weren't really playing any starters. They were already like kind of like just crashing out at the end of the year. So it was just like a team full of a bunch of young guys like Anthony Simons, and I don't even know who all else they had back then, who they still have now, but and there was a timeout, and Josh Hart, I see him like yelling at all these young guys, and like he was honestly seemed like the coach. And I can't remember who was coach at that point. I think maybe they had just fired their last coach and they hadn't yet hired Chauncey Billups, or maybe Chauncey was there. I don't know. All I know is that in that moment it looked like Josh Hart was the coach of the Portland Trailblazers. So he's always really tried to make his teammates better no matter where he goes. Just a great team player, and they've just got a lot of those guys in New York. And Jalen Brunson, man, 34 points. Like, that's just a tough thing. It's like Cade Cunningham has had an amazing year, and I think he's going to have a really good series, but it's just like Jalen Brunson is still better. And that's just kind of how it is across the board. Like, Karl Anthony Towns is good enough to score on Jalen Duren when he needs to. And so, no shade at all to this Pistons team, but it's going to be a tough series for them. And I expect they're going to make it a really cool, entertaining series. And so I'm very excited for these next few games. I think they can win at least one or two games, but I think New York is a pretty safe bet. And I said I wasn't going to make predictions. I've been making them all video, and I will probably continue to. Shout out Malik Beasley. As someone who does follow the Bucks, yeah, it did kind of suck. I knew it would suck when like he inevitably played really solidly for the Pistons. I don't know. He just kind of has a weird career where you never really know how good he's going to be on any given team, and it's just like you just got to be kind of lucky with Malik Beasley. But it seems like the Pistons are so far, and yeah, I just think maybe there's something to be said about guys like Malik Beasley or Tobias Harris where they're good enough that like really good contending teams take a chance on them, and then under those very strenuous and high expectations, those guys don't perform very well, and they get run out of town, and then they end up going to a team like the Pistons where there's a lot less to lose, and they're more a part of the culture, and you see them actually playing really well. I mean, like, Tobias Harris is still talented, and I always felt like Philadelphia fans never quite gave him a fair shake, and I understand why they dislike him, but also I feel like Philadelphia fans, they're going to be a little overly nasty. And, it wasn't Tobias Harris's fault the front office made some very poor decisions in the 2019 offseason. I don't know. I think he was more consistent on the Sixers than people give him credit for, and the Sixers needed a lot more. But once again, I think it was never really his fault. Anytime that I don't think they actually lost that many games because Tobias Harris didn't play well enough, and I know sometimes his shooting consistency is not what he would like it to be, but I think yeah, I think his role on the Pistons is a bit better. Where when he is taking those 3-point shots, they're they're much more natural, and a lot of that has to do with Cade. I mean, he's a much better fit alongside Cade than anyone he played with in Philadelphia, and Cade is going to be a big reason why this series is still going to be pretty good and entertaining. I mean, if you look at Cade's statistics in the month of March, it's insane. I don't remember the specific statistics that I saw, but it was his assist to turnover ratio. It was like well beyond, like 10 to 1. And, he had something like 112 assists in that month and like 7 turnovers or something like that. But don't quote me on that. But yeah, I don't know. Pistons Knicks is going to be fun. You're probably watching it right now, so you don't need me to tell you that. And this video is getting really long, so I think I'm going to split this into 2 parts. And we're going to, I guess so we're just going to cover Timberwolves Lakers, and then I'm going to make a second part to talk about the other few teams. So, yeah, I feel a bit vindicated because leading up to the playoffs, I feel like I saw so many damn Lakers fans talking up just how good they're going to do in the playoffs, and it's like, can any team beat LA in the West? And I'm like, come on, y'all. Yeah, so, I mean, I definitely do not think that the Timberwolves are as good this season as they were last season. But that being said, they still got a lot going for them, and they do still have. Anthony Edwards can be a little bit inconsistent, but they have him and enough talent around him that you're going to get, like, I was pretty impressed with Jaden McDaniels, Naz Reid. I mean, you kind of expect it from Naz Reid at this point, but I don't necessarily expect those guys to have 20-point games every game, but, maybe Dante DiVincenzo goes for like 18, 20 points in a game. Mike Conley certainly can score more, although it's not quite his role at this point. Julius Randle's going to be a bit inconsistent, and LeBron James is such a good matchup against Julius Randle. Anytime LeBron James is guarding Julius Randle, I don't expect him to score at all. So that's one tricky thing for the Timberwolves in this series. But yeah, I mean, Jackson Hayes hardly played at all in the last game. I'm not surprised. It's like the center deficiency in LA is still serious, and I was never going to feel that strongly positively towards this Lakers team with Jackson Hayes as starting center. I'm a Pelicans fan. I watched 4 seasons of Jackson Hayes in New Orleans, and there are few players I was more relieved to get off the team. And I know he's looked a lot better. I think a lot of that's just playing next to like real playmakers who really know how to use somebody who's such a good, lob threat. I mean, he's become a much better cutter. That's for certain. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not surprised the Lakers did not play Jackson Hayes very much in the last game, and I don't expect we'll see very much of him in the series, but could that be a problem? I mean, Timberwolves only played Rudy Gobert 24 minutes in the last game, which I feel like they could play him a bit more. I mean, I know there's not like a big, tall interior presence that you're really trying to guard. I think it still could be helpful to play Gobert a little bit more and even look to him a bit more on offense. I mean, only 2 points. There are some times when Rudy Gobert is scoring like 15 points and the Timberwolves look really awesome. Is that something that's really feasible against the Lakers? I mean, I don't know. It's just I'm looking at the lack of really consistent good interior defense on the Lakers, and I'm like, maybe you can look for Rudy Gobert a bit more. For whatever limited minutes you can have Mike Conley out there, which I don't know if Mike Conley can do like 34 minutes a game anymore. Because, I mean, you talk about workhorses. That's one guy who has been so damn consistent in putting in the effort at his age for the Timberwolves these past few seasons. But yeah, whatever minutes you have with Mike Conley could be good to have Gobert out there because they still have such good chemistry, and getting that kind of lob threat action against a Lakers team that, yeah, I don't trust their defense. Yeah, I think that could be pretty key for them going forward because you're not going to get the level of 3-point shooting that you got from Jaden McDaniels every day, every game. You're not going to get the 3-point shooting from Naz Reid is actually a pretty damn consistent 3-point shooter, but once again, it's like you can't bank on shooting more threes than the Lakers. But yeah, I think it's interesting. Dalton Connect hardly played at all in the game. I mean, given his lack of experience, it's not so surprising, but he has at least one very utilizable skill. And I know in the playoffs you want defensive minded guys, but there situationally are times where you just need a lights out shooter in a game. And so I wouldn't be surprised if we see a little more of Dalton Connect at some point later on in the series. Do I really have a prediction for the series? I'm not going to call Timberwolves Lakers. It could go either way, in my opinion, very easily. But I think I'm very annoyed by people riding a bit too high on the Lakers because I think Minnesota is absolutely capable of beating them. It might not even take very many games. I think it'll be a pretty close series. I expect LA to get a win or two. They might not. If they don't get a win or two, it'll be very close games from here on out. But yeah, so that was my thoughts on, I guess, on all the games that happened this past Saturday. Um, but we've at least covered the two that are going to be happening tonight. So I'll still cover the other 4 game ones that happened on Sunday. I'll do that in another video. But thank you all so much for watching, and I hope this wasn't too rambly. But yeah, I'm very excited to go ahead, and we've got some good ones tonight with Knicks Pistons and the Nuggets Clippers.